Hello and welcome here to another edition of Best of the West, a National League West podcast here for Blake Street Banner. I am your host, Skyler Timmins, joined here once again uh, after some escapades last week that kept him out of the episode, but hopefully it's all figured out now. But he's here. It's Kenneth Weber.
Escapade is an underselling. What I would say is if you ever have the chance to watch Nikola Jokic score 60 points in person, don't leave your phone at your seat unattended. That was my problem. And that's why I was not here last week is I was in the midst of the fourth quarter. I saw history happening and I just decided to be that dog at the table where it's like this is fine while the kitchen is on fire around him. That's how I felt watching that game, knowing my phone was gone. So, yeah, that's why I was gone the next day. But it's good to be back. And like baseball's kind of getting in full swing for me. Skyler, do you feel that way too? Like, I feel like this season has kind of the way it's been a fast year. I feel like for some people, it's been a
Mhm.
fast start of the season for me.
Yeah, it's when you settle in, it's what, but like getting close to the end of 2 weeks of full games now. Where it's kind of in that full transition of it's a big enough little sample size where it's that transition from spring training where you're seeing the same guys day after day after day playing a whole
Mhm.
game. I think that it really starts to settle in by this point.
I have two parts to that thought. I think there are two things. I think one, you find out who the spring training for real and not for reals are. You know, like, oh, so and so had an amazing spring training. They hit 700. We didn't expect them to make the team. They're here now. And then you hear kind of nothing from them. You know, they're not that impactful. Or maybe a Casey Mize, let's say, is, oh, I think this guy's going to have a really good year kind of thing,
Yeah.
and you're showing up. And so I think we're starting to have some actual data to that. And then two, and this is a total beside the point. The opening day like paint on the grass, like the
Hmm.
logo and everything. Once that starts to fade, I kind of feel like okay, now we're into it. Like I know it's a
Yeah.
very stupid and visual thing, but the charm wears off, and I feel like the charm wore off very quickly this year.
Yeah. 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 That, especially when you're following the Rockies like we
The
typically do.
term wears off very quickly all the time there. But yeah, no, just overall, I feel like the National League at least is kind of feeling a little settled. The National League West is showing is pretty damn good. So I feel like that has settled in very early.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's something we're gonna dive into quite a bit here in this episode. How about that for a co-host segue? Kenneth earning those big bucks.
Instead of tangents, one has to work.
But before we get into that, let's hit up some headlines and things that will kind of tie into just this whole idea in the National League West and how they're getting off on the right foot to start things off. But we injuries I think are the big thing that it's kind of making its rounds here through the division that could have an impact on some of the things we talk about. But mainly the Padres, D-backs, and Dodgers have all lost some significant pieces already. Where Freddie Freeman, Blake Snell for the Dodgers have landed on the injured list. Jackson Merrill after signing that big contract. I guess the weight of
Copy
that
and
money.
paste.
Yeah,
Yeah, copy and paste that for Ketel Marte too.
yeah, exactly. Ketel Marte for the Diamondbacks. No, all four of these guys, key pieces for these teams, all landed on the injured list here in these first couple weeks. Which some of these guys, like a Blake Snell, kind of figured, and we knew Freddie Freeman was already kind of banged up.
I mean, this was going back to Tokyo with Freddie Freeman. So we're
Yeah,
talking about a ways back.
yeah. So it's not the hard parts where it sucks to lose these guys, and you just wonder, okay, how long are they going to be out? Merrill has the hamstring strain. Freddie's been dealing with the ankle. All this other stuff for these guys. Of how long will this impact them? But it's early enough in the season where you just hope, okay, hopefully it's just the 2 week thing will be okay, as opposed to maybe some of these injuries happening maybe in August or September, maybe.
Yeah. I think we have mostly good news on these players. And what I mean by that is Freddie Freeman, look, I think you have to take each of these injuries organization by organization. And right now, the Los Angeles Dodgers are a luxury of riches. And
Mhm.
so they don't need Blake Snell right now. They don't need Freddie Freeman right now. And they want to make sure that there's no lingering effects. They want to make sure that there's nothing that's going to creep its head back up come August, September, October. And so for me, maybe there's more to it, but I think it's very easy to write off the Dodgers right now as just playing it smart, you
Mhm.
know? And I think that's as far as we go. Now with Freddie Freeman, this has been lingering for a while. I understand that there's context to all of it, but yeah, you don't want a whole half a year missed by Freddie Freeman. You don't want a postseason run diminished because whatever was never healthy. Like that could be a story that develops. But overall, the Dodgers, they're okay, and the record shows that. I think that there's irony to Jackson Merrill and Ketel
Mhm.
Marte. But I read the two situations very, very differently. I think the Padres are saying, "Hey, we're playing with house money right now. Let's not mess with it." Jackson Merrill, sit down. Like,
Mhm.
relax. You're young. You'll be fine. Take your time. Ketel Marte, that could be the one where it's like, ooh, he just signed that extension, and then it started going south. Like, there's a little bit of, you're longer in the tooth than a Jackson Merrill.
Yeah.
And the Diamondbacks aren't off to the greatest start. They're fine, but yeah, Marte worries me a little bit because they really need Marte.
Yeah. And then, also there's the scary things where Fernando Tatis Jr. and Jake Cronenworth had to come out of a game recently. They're hoping, okay, those are just little minor things. We're not going to lose them for extended amount of time. So there's maybe some tugging at the collar for the
For
Padres
some.
and the D-backs. But at the point, if anything, you can afford to miss 2 weeks of these guys in April.
Hmm.
If it's anything that lingering that really hampers them when they come back, that's when you start getting a little bit more worried. But at this point, we'll dive into more of how this impacts the rest of their stuff, but not too shabby right now. Uh, really quickly, the Giants did officially unveil their City Connects, Kenneth. When we
We
first talked about them,
unofficially, yeah,
yeah,
we unofficially unveiled those City Connects
yeah,
in the first place. Still not great, but it's funny because Skyler and I play video games. Not everybody does. It's not everybody's cup of tea. However, video game leaks and just like media leaks are a
mm-hmm.
thing. That's just what City Connects are now, right? Like
Pretty
there's
much,
just there's just leaks of apparel that happen now. And so what we were 3 weeks, a month ahead of this, and
yeah,
now they're officially out there. And
yeah,
there's still City Connect jerseys.
yeah. It's like it's still
We
not
know the
great.
Rockies, by the way. We
Yeah,
already know that, but they haven't officially unveiled it yet.
but between the two, Kenneth, which do you think is better, the Giants one or the Rockies quote unquote leaked one?
I don't wear a lot of lavender and pink, so I'll go Giants
Yeah,
because that's kind of where the Rockies are going.
yeah. I like the. I know I like the idea of what the Rockies are going for. I don't like the layout execution of what they're
I don't
supposedly
like
putting out.
I don't like 2.0 City Connects.
Yeah, they're
Like
eh, not
there's
great so far.
also there's a hard deadline, I feel like, with all of these teams, and I feel like there's a rush for the next version of jerseys right
Yeah,
now.
and that's pushed by Nike more than likely
Hmm.
because we see what they do with the NBA.
Yeah. Gosh, I like Boston. I like Boston's second more than I like Boston's first,
Yeah,
if that means anything. But like that's no, that doesn't mean a lot to me. I'll say it that way.
yeah. No, them leaning into like the Green Monster
Yeah.
thing, really cool. And the fact with all these back to the Rockies one, the fact that it's a pullover, it looks like not an actual button-down jersey. I hate it. Immediately, that just drops it
Mm.
so far for me.
So you
I
hated the softball players jerseys?
I hate those. I hate that's what our jerseys were like in high school. Like
Hmm.
the JV team, they had the old ones, that little old varsity jerseys, and those were the button-up vests. But then we had gotten new uniforms on varsity like my freshman year, and they're pullovers with a couple, maybe one or two buttons near the collar,
Yeah,
like that. The little
the
polo,
collarbone. Yeah,
and like
the
those
two
were,
useless buttons.
yeah, those were rough, but it's like they're a little too tight when you're putting it on. So like
Some of
they don't expand as much. You don't have the luxury of, oh, I can just throw this on and not button it up.
I love that, and I think and Aaron is a good one to get in on this because he's I don't know, a fashion guy or a sports card guy. But when it comes to baseball uniforms, I'm a huge vest guy. I don't know how. I feel like a lot of people don't love vests, but like I don't know, mid 2000s Rockies where they had the black sleeve vest and the pinstripe. I was all about that, man. Like there's certain uniforms that work for me. I'm a big vest guy. I'm not a big pullover guy, just like you
Yeah,
said. I feel like we have a good uniform tier list that we can create here on the channel.
yeah. We'll get there eventually, I'm sure. One of those dog days of summer when we need something, but
I'll get this out then real quick. So I went to Thomas Jefferson High School for the people close to us and near home. Our vests, my sophomore year, were brown. Our colors are brown and yellow. We had brown vest with mustard yellow sleeves. For those that remember the 2006 Rockies that introduced the black vest for the first time, Skyler, do you remember what their sleeves were first colored?
yeah, they have like this because it's back in 2005. They have the black vests. They're wearing purple undershirts
It
at the
looks
time.
horrible. It looks so bad. And like the
I like
Rockies
that
did that.
that pattern.
Oh, dude,
I
I
like that
hated
pairing.
that. I think the backwards would have been much better. And that's my whole thing with it. I think purple is bad on a shirt. But regardless, there's some bad uniforms out there. And I feel like the City Connect doesn't care to acknowledge when uniforms have failed in the past.
Yeah,
I guess that's my whole thing with them.
I just want to know who's designing these things. Is it the team? Is it the Nike? Is it a combination of
Somebody,
the two?
yeah, somebody at Nike with a marketing degree that doesn't watch baseball.
Hey, at least at the very least, 5280 was not slapped across the front of the Rockies one. So
You know what? We were all wrong about that. And so we got a small win there. Small win. I don't mind the new Rocky City Connects. I would rather have the black sleeveless than either. I'll put it that way.
mm-hmm. But Nike hates vests because who
Yeah,
knows? But anyways,
comes and goes. Comes and
spe-
goes.
speaking of the
This is
Rockies,
not Uniwatch.
speaking of the Rockies, real quick, we can start off with them as we kind of transition into our main topic here of the National League West. No, tale of two stories here with the National League West. Is the National League West the top division in baseball? Because we saw that you can look at those 4 of the 5 teams in the division, Kenneth, pretty good. Like you mentioned, Arizona Diamondbacks, not up to the hottest start, but they're doing
Still
fine.
over 500.
Yeah, still doing fine, and things will pick up hopefully as the season goes on. The other 3 teams, Dodgers doing their thing as we expected. Padres, maybe a little more surprising, but we knew they had the talent to do it. They're doing their thing. Giants surprisingly off to a really good start. So we'll tie into these 4 teams, but first we have to talk about the elephant in the room, the triceratops in the room. That is as of recording or right now as we're doing this, the 2-8 Colorado Rockies, looking like probably 2-9 Colorado Rockies.
Let me interrupt. This is the dinger in the domicile.
There,
Anyways, continue.
there you go.
Okay.
But this clear giant dinosaur of a team in both senses of the
The
word.
dinosaur in the den.
Yeah. Let's start off talking about them, who are kind of just the outlier. It's the outlier when MLB's posting like, is this the hottest division in baseball? And there is clearly one team missing that they're not even going to acknowledge in the Colorado Rockies, who have been off to no way to put around it. They've been terrible to start the season.
Why should Major League Baseball promote them when talking about this division? Like, the way I look at this division is I'm not surprised, other than the Giants and the Diamondbacks I would have swapped places with right now.
Yeah.
If you had a 3-headed monster in this division at the start of the season and you said, all right, the Dodgers, the Diamondbacks, and the Padres look pretty damn good, nobody would bat an eye. Nobody would be surprised at that
Mm-hmm.
whatsoever. You're talking about the reigning World Series champions, the team that added the best pitcher in the market, and honestly, the team that has spent the most money, or close to the most money in the past 3, 4, 5 years. They're all right
Mm-hmm.
there in the mix. The Giants are a very smart organization, and I think they're overperforming to their expectations.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's one interchangeable in there. The Rocky stake. And the Rockies, I've only seen play one game hard this year. And for the most part, and that was Chase Dollinger's debut. Otherwise,
Yeah.
this is the team just stuck in obscurity. There's not a whole lot at stake for the Rockies right now. I'm glad that Chase Dollinger and Zach Veen are part of this team right now, and I think that this is a beneficial move for them. Why they waited 10 games into the season to think that this was now a good idea, I'm baffled. But we spent an entire offseason talking about how dysfunctional this organization is. So dramatic pendulum swings the other direction during the first week of the season. I'm not surprised because this
Yeah.
was going to be a smelly team in the first place.
Yeah. Coming into today on Wednesday's game, they lead all of baseball in strikeout percentage at 29.8%. Next closest is Houston at 26.8. So they're the worst swinging team in baseball. Walk rate
Which is
is in that
nothing
bottom,
new.
yeah, bottom four. They're 27th coming into today with 7.2% here on this Wednesday, April 9th.
Also,
There's no
while we
power.
are talking, they are losing 5-1 in the bottom of
Yeah,
the fourth. So they're probably going to lose tonight too while
yeah,
we're here.
and so it's the offense is not there. The starting pitching, for the most part, solid enough, has done you enough through their
Very good.
first run through and a half, good enough to win more ball games if there was any resemblance of an offense at all.
Solid enough doesn't begin to cover it because this starting
No.
rotation has actually been very good. I forget what the stat is that I heard last night from Drew Goodman, but essentially they're the second best ERA of a starting rotation, at least in the National League this year. And which is about right. They're going to give you 5 good innings. Kyle Freeland went out, gave up what, three in the first 2 innings, made it a 4-0 game, 4-1 game, I guess, heading into the 6th inning at Coors Field. That's a very winnable game. And the bullpen collapses from there.
Yeah.
So if it's not one thing, it's another. But from the outset, I think it's hard to make an argument that this starting rotation, at least, hasn't been a positive. This has been a
Yeah.
very good performance from the starting rotation, even if it's not resulting in wins
Yeah.
overall.
Yeah. And that's the thing with like Colorado is like, coming into Wednesday, they're now seventh in all of baseball. I think they're now they were fourth in the National League in starter ERA at a
Mhm.
3.13, which is still really good.
Hell yeah. For
But like,
Coors. Hell yeah.
yeah, for Colorado and their
A
first,
lot on the road, but still, yeah.
yeah, they're still their first run through the rotation at home,
Mhm.
aside from
Any
maybe
team will any team will take a 3-1-3.
yeah,
5 games through, 10 games through, whatever. Any team will take that.
yeah, and like these starts at home, yeah, they've been a little more shaky, but still good enough for the most part of everybody, except maybe Senzatella tonight, of good enough if you get an offense behind you,
Look at
winnable
that
or competitive
first
games.
look at that first game of the Milwaukee series. Right? You have a
Mm-hmm.
4-1 game. Freeland just gets lifted. Zach Bean is making his major league debut, drops down a bunt, gives you second and third. And then Jacob Stallings comes in and gets his third strikeout in three at bats. And then
Mm-hmm.
Freeland comes in, immediately gets pulled after he was left in there too long, and then the bullpen implodes. So if it's not one thing, it's another.
Yeah,
But the thing with the Rockies is they don't have the talent to mask their flaws. That's
yeah,
just a reality that they have to accept. Sometimes you can out hit your problems. Sometimes you can outscore your problems. That's just the way it works. The Rockies right now can't score enough to make their strengths become wins. Like that's
yeah,
kind of where they're at right now. And that's why you question everything that they did heading into the season. And that's
yeah.
why they're 2-8. or whatever.
Yeah, and why you question everything they've been doing for the past 6 seasons, and
Mm-hmm.
for the past 30 some odd years, and
Oh yeah, there's a long laundry list of dirty laundry out there with the Rockies, but when we look at the snapshot of this season as a whole, yeah, I this is about what I expected, and that's
yeah,
the sad part with it. That said, Brenton Doyle is looking like his own squad. Brenton Doyle right now is such an impact player, and it's flying under the radar
yeah,
because the team stinks.
yeah, and like Tovar has been looking better, like an improved plate discipline a little bit there for him,
I
drawing at
see
least a
it
little more
more.
walks.
I
But
see it more with Doyle. Is what the thing with Doyle, and this is getting into the weeds a little bit right now with people. Tovar is going to be Tovar, and Tovar is going to hurt mistakes. Can Tovar stop himself from putting himself out?
yeah,
Easy outs. Brenton Doyle is controlling the strike zone so well right now, and mistakes over the plate. It's a pure athleticism hammered home run. It's a low line drive that he's crushing to left. It's not the Aaron Judge enormo blast, but Brenton Doyle is making pitchers pay hard, and he's waiting for pitchers to make a mistake. I'm not quite seeing that with Tovar, but regardless, the two best players on this team are making it very clear that they're the two best players on this team.
yeah, yeah, and I think part of that is but them kind of helping. They're kind of those marquee players of okay, let these younger players get some action, and so
Hunter
that's
Goodman, right there, is the best example of that. Sorry to interrupt you
yeah.
again, but
No, like even Hunter Goodman, he's still not up to their level because got off to the
yeah,
hot start, and then he's been ice cold since coming to Coors Field, which is always weird when that happens. But I think that's
that's
why
the
there's so much.
adjustment.
Yeah, there's always so much the buzz and excitement of we want more of these youth, and then we get in Chase Dolander and Zach Veen now, where so much buzz around the team of okay, this is what we want. We want to see that. We know the team's going to be bad, but at least they won't be as boring if we can watch Dolander go out there. We can watch Zach Veen bring his thing, and then have Doyle out there, Tovar. So the Rockies are in their whole different conversation and world than what we want to talk about with the rest of this division because they're not even sniffing a winning record this season or
Yeah,
even getting close to 500. Not even sniffing distance of 500 this season, it feels like. And
I,
so it's
it's always felt like that.
yeah,
I mean, finish your point for me first, because there's not a lot of surprise, and I think you and I would both agree on that.
yeah. Oh, that was pretty much it. Is like that. We know what the team is, what they're gonna do. So why do we need to put up the facade of we're gonna be trying to compete and we've got these veterans? Chris Bryant's gonna be who he wanted to be. I don't care about Chris Bryant. I care about what Zach Veen can do. I care about
Yeah.
Jordan Beck figuring it out in AAA again and coming back up and making an impact. I don't care what
So
Nick Martini does this season.
yeah, yeah. Why would you fall in love with a Nick Martini? And I agree to that point. I have questions about the Rockies that I can't find an answer to, and usually I can, and
Yeah.
that's why I'm bringing this up right now. I don't know if the Rockies were trying to manipulate service time or if the Rockies were really just that toe-headed. I gotta think it airs on the side of service time. And the whole reason why I bring this up is because Zach Veen and Chase Dollander did not start the season with the Rockies. They were not on the opening day roster. However, they're here within 10 games and they're making an immediate impact, making it at least more fun, giving you more hope, everything that you were outlining there, Skyler. But not starting the season was Zach Veen and Nick Martini, which had good springs, which showed that they were close to, competing at least in Major League action, has now cost the cost the Rockies an opportunity to have draft picks if they finish in the top two of the National League Rookie of the Year this year. And clearly, they need these guys. Clearly, Zach Veen showed up. He laid down one bunt. He put one ball within the chalk lines in the game yesterday, and he set up a second and third and brought the tying run to the plate.
Yeah.
That's better than anything Nick Martini can do, other than the hopeful 3-run bomb off the bench in the seventh, whatever it is.
Yeah.
It's clear that these are going to make you a more competitive team. Why didn't you break camp with them?
Yeah.
What rationale did you have for it? Unless it was clearly we think we can wait a month and a half with a Nick Martini. We don't think Austin Gomber is that hurt, which that's a whole discussion that nobody's touching right now. I think Austin Gomber's injury is very serious, and they pushed the Chase Dollander button immediately when they found out how bad Gomber is. Bro, how did you not know this until a week into the season? Like, that's the question.
Yeah.
That's where it is with the Rockies. And so they're in a better place. Why did you need a week into the season to figure that out?
Yeah. What did how did 8 days in the in the minors, 8 games of the minor in AAA help Zach Veen get
And
ready to play in the big
that's a
leagues?
Jordan Beck conversation that I didn't touch on, and that's where you're going with it. And tell me your thoughts on Jordan Beck. It had to be one of the two, but yet Nick Martini is safe. That's the whole thing that's danced around beside this point. And so, yeah, Zach Veen, I want Jordan Beck and Zach Veen. Let's get me a left-right platoon. But that's heresy, and that's the hard part as a Rockies fan right there. I see two young guys, two very talented young guys, and I want to see them every day in some incarnation. But instead, there's Nick Martini. That's still a thing right now with the Rockies, and that's why you'll never get him.
Yeah. And it's always finding that balance of what's going to be beneficial for this young player. Now, Zach Veen, Chase Dollander, yeah, you could just put them on the opening day roster. They're better served being up there. Jordan Beck, who's been up, has struggled. And sent down to AAA, perfectly fine. He just go build some confidence and work on that down there.
Yeah, definitely in a vacuum.
Perfect. But they're a weird team, and it stems so much just from the old heads that are running the team and who's at the helm as the manager. All this stuff, who I guess has an open invitation to come back as long as he wants. Meanwhile, Michael Malone gets fired from the Nuggets. So
you were driving to that point. I was going to say, this is eerily similar to a dysfunction or a lapse in communication between a GM and a coach. And bro, I was talking to a really good friend of mine who's a bigger Nuggets fan than I'll ever be. And I told him, welcome to a Tuesday as a Rockies fan when the Michael Malone news went down. Do you remember when Jeff Bridich got fired? Was anybody surprised?
They mutually agreed to part ways, Kenneth.
Man, like this is what the Rockies do best. The Rockies do rooftop beers and management drama, I guess, better than anybody. And dude, we didn't even make it 10 games, and we're already scratching our heads and saying, what are the Rockies doing? That's what it is. Right now, this year is going to be simply about this is my whole thoughts on the season. You need Veen, Amador, Dollander, and maybe somebody else to join Tovar and Doyle. That's what it has to be this year.
Yeah.
And they kickstarted it early. Great. Why not just do that from the start? Because for a team that loves draft and development as much as they do, this team is not eligible for the lottery this year, no matter how bad they are. And two, if they had brought these guys on the roster from opening day, they would have had a chance to get a comp draft pick, the same comp draft pick they loved for John Gray and Trevor Story, which is why they never traded them. Why didn't you do that? That's the questions I have for them right now.
Yeah, because now you have to hope that like a Veen or Dollander can finish top 3 MVP or Cy Young within the next 3 seasons.
Good luck.
That's not happening for either. So,
have you heard of Shohei Ohtani? Because he could win both for each of the next 3 years.
So, and like they had same thing. They had talked about, we considered carrying Amador after the Tyro Estrada injury, but no, he's not ready yet. And so it's just this.
And Kyle Farmer is ready when?
Yeah, and like Farmer's doing okay, but like, did you
Kyle
need Tyler
Farmer
Freeman?
was supposed to be ready 8 years ago.
Yeah,
that's the problem.
So it's them saying, we've talked about all the kinds of other podcasts people talk about. They talk the talk of, we've got all these youth, we know what we need to do, but then when it comes down to it, they will turn to the Kyle Farmers the Nick Martinis, because they're scared of their young guys failing, and then that's the best I can surmise.
Because they're scared. Yeah,
they're just
I would
scared.
have just stopped that 2 words earlier. Skyler, you and I are not credentialed to run a major league organization, but I think the 21 people in here right now would say we're talking a whole lot more sense than what people have heard from the Rockies in the past 6 years. So, like, that's, dude, you can spend all your time scratching your head about the Rockies and it will never stop. It just doesn't end until ownership changes. And that's what it is. But this latest incarnation is, you might have just shot yourselves in the foot, and we're watching this in the first 2 weeks. Like that's kind of where I'm at with them right now, because this is still looking like a pretty secure 100-loss team in the first 11 games of the season.
Best case scenario, 99 losses.
Yay!
It's not 100.
Yeah, yay!
Whoa.
Congrats, you now only have the 3rd worst record in the National League.
It's the meme of all the podiums all the way down on the guys cheering, spraying the champagne and everything.
Honestly, they could lose 91 or 121, and it's all going to be the same with their draft pick next year.
Mm-hmm. Well, hey, Bud Black earned that right to stay. So,
and Bud Black with the beard now.
But
something new, different.
But moving on from the Rockies, because
thankfully
we unintentionally talked about them more than maybe we intended to.
After a half hour of depression, here we go.
But that brings the rest of the division, which is honestly pretty exciting. And there's a reason that the National League West is as exciting as it is. It's because of these 4 teams and how they're trying to operate and the talent they've been trying to infuse into their teams. And honestly, it's that 4-pony race where they're wanting to compete with one another and go for that title. And it helps that you have the Dodgers as that standard at the top, setting the tempo and the pace. Like you got to go through us to get this division. And these other teams are using that as that motivation to push them forward. So all of them off to pretty decent starts. But let's start with the San Francisco Giants, who are off to an uncharacteristic, surprising start to the season, because this was a team, Kenneth, that didn't do a ton in the offseason. They brought in Willie Adames, they extended Matt Chapman, and they brought in Justin Verlander. And Buster Posey took over as president of baseball ops. And a few weeks ago, we're like, did they do enough?
That's kind of a ton. Like, let's start there, because, like, I feel like in terms of quantity, yeah, it's not, 15 moves that are going to affect the major league roster this year. But in terms of quality, we've spent a lot of time talking about it. There was some making up for lost time, I feel like, with San Francisco this offseason. And I feel like whether it works out or not, there was a fast reset that occurred with this team this year. And so far, the results are positive. Like, you can't argue with, what are they, 9-3? Something like that. But they're right in the thick with the Padres and the Dodgers. And, boy, that's good company right now in the National League. So it's hard to argue that San Francisco isn't having the best possible outcome right now.
Yeah. Currently, by winning percentage, they are second in the division, ahead of the Dodgers in win percentage.
Let's talk about North American games at least, all right?
Yeah. So they're 9-3.
Well, I guess that hurts the Dodgers more, actually, now that I think about it.
But yeah, it wasn't the quantity. There's still question marks we had on. Like, yeah, like, what are they doing at first base? They didn't address all the holes that we saw in their team, but entering the season, everything's working. The offense, hitting it big. Jung Ho Lee staying healthy. He's doing his job at the top of the lineup. He's got a 375 on base. Strikeouts are a little high. He's got a 14.6% strikeout rate, so not terrible. Pretty good, below league average. Top of that lineup, scoring runs. He's doing everything right for him. And then you're getting the additions of Mike Yastrzemski's doing pretty good out of the gate. He's always, we know him as a Rockies killer, one of those guys, but he's putting in the work. Matt Chapman's doing Matt Chapman things here and there. but Wilmer Flores. So they're getting
You've
production
hit.
from some of the characters that have been there for a while.
This is the weird mojo with San Francisco, and you hit two of the three names on this current roster that really strike me as nobody else in the league could do this.
Yeah,
Mike Yastrzemski and Wilmer Flores. The third that I would throw in there is Lamont Wade Jr.
yeah,
I have no confidence in these guys succeeding the way they do with any other, like just choose an
mm-hmm.
organization. Put them in Detroit,
Yeah,
put him in Anaheim. I don't see the same level of production from Mike Yastrzemski, Lamont Wade Jr., and these guys just year after year continue to be really good, really productive hitters. And I think that this is the first indication of a very smart organization. I think Zaid, excuse me, had a lot of good ideas. I think that there were some big
yeah,
missing pieces that held the Giants back over previous years. But that doesn't mean that those good ancillary pieces aren't still good ancillary pieces,
yeah,
and that's the thing with the Giants. And so, no, I'm not surprised because they're constantly overachievers. The Giants are the Cardinals, but
mm-hmm.
just on the coast. That's kind of the way it works with that. Now, what makes the Giants scary is Willie Adames has not been great.
Yeah,
He's been their guy. That was that big ad. They were supposed to be Arson Judge. They were supposed to be, in on everybody and anybody that commanded $150 million or more that could swing a bat. Willie Adames is that guy, and he hasn't been great, but they're still a 9-3 team. They're still right there with the Dodgers. They're still right there with the Padres, and they're looking like a playoff team. One of the big questions we had, Jung Ho Lee, what's he going to be? He's pretty damn good. Like that's the
yeah,
first thing that gets answered this year with the Giants.
mm-hmm. Yeah, and because that's what you need is we know they're gonna have the pitching and like Logan Webb's doing his thing. Some of those guys, Jordan Hicks, Landon Roop came in through a gem out there. They're gonna get
Yeah.
the pitching. Verlander he's got the worst ERA, like 6.92 in that rotation in 13 innings. So not the Verlander of old, but they've got the pitching there in place. It's how much can they generate enough offense, just enough to help support that, to take a little bit of pressure off that, rotation and the pitching staff, and that's what they're getting so far. And not all the pieces are clicking yet. They're still trying to figure out. Lamont Wade Jr. not doing good here to start the year. They're having Casey Schmidt start to learn to play first base, so they can open up some more opportunities there. And Chapman
Yeah.
will keep doing his
Pete
thing.
Alonso going back there again.
Yeah.
Anyway,
So they're the good signs of, okay, you can see how this offense could be really good if you get more of these pieces rolling a little bit to help support the Jung Ho Lee who's getting on base, to support Mike Yastrzemski and take some pressure off these guys where they're not the ones that have to carry it all season. Some of your heavy hitters like a Willie Adames will have to start hitting, but
and you trust that he will.
yeah,
You trust that a Willie Adames. Now, look, is Willie Adames going to be a potential 40 home run threat the way he was in Milwaukee versus San Francisco? Probably not, right?
nope.
A lot of those doubles, or excuse me, a lot of those home runs probably convert into doubles. But at the end of the day, Willie Adames is going to be the adult in the room in that lineup, in the middle of the lineup. And it might take some time, but you trust what you paid for. You're going to get something for what you paid for. My weird point, and I'm trying to pull this up on the fly, so I don't have these stats available in my head. San Francisco is the exact opposite of Colorado, where they're supposed to be manufactured to win 3-1 games.
Mm-hmm.
3-2 games, 4-3 games, whatever. Colorado is supposed to be manufactured to win 13-11 games, and nobody else is. The problem is, I kind of feel like the Giants are a little bit of a they're winning because of some bullpen luck right now. And Camilo
Mm-hmm.
Duval is throwing out of his mind at a 1.8. Ryan Walker was awesome last year, and they're smart enough to pick and choose and use him in particular spots. A bullpen will probably hold up in San Francisco over the course of the year because it's a much more pitcher friendly environment. And that is going to help them get off to a fast start right now.
Mhm.
You need Willie Adames and Jung Ho Lee to bop at the same time. If that
Yeah.
doesn't happen at some point this season, this is not a playoff team. If that doesn't happen for a considerable stretch of this season right now, and substitute the names you want. Heliot Ramos, maybe you believe in Luciano coming in. Maybe you're a giant Tyler Fitzgerald guy. I don't know.
Mhm.
But you need a lot of horses to carry you with the bats. And right now, the arms are picking up the slack, even if it's not a Justin Verlander going out there and throwing 8 shutout to do it, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. Looking at their run differential, Giants have a plus 18 run differential. So they're outscoring their opponents. They're getting that good plus 18. So it's still more that they need to get rolling off the ground, but they're supporting that pitching just enough to where it's making that good impact for them and lifting them up. Their expected win-loss ratio is supposed to be 8-4, so they're right there where they should be based on all those numbers. So it's just it's to see them coming out of the gate now. How sustainable will it be in this marathon of a season? That's the question that we'll have to be asking in like a month or so. But they're coming out of the gate strong, maybe stronger than any of us expected, which is what you want to do to start the season because you want to build up as much as you can to give you a little leeway as the season goes on.
Right now, the San Francisco Giants have the third best bullpen ERA in all of baseball at 1.98. The New York Mets have 1.27, which is no way. That holds up kind of thing. But San Francisco right now, a top 3 bullpen. Trust that with what you will in the first place. But they also have a left on base percentage, which I think this popped up. Sorry, as my cursor goes all over the place. Yeah, they have a a top 5 left on base percentage in all of baseball. So there's a whole lot of high leverage tightrope acts that they're kind of surviving right now. And hey, a Camilo Duval is the arm that gives you a strikeout when you
Yeah.
need it. And so if he turns that corner, yeah, it's sustainable. It really is if you have that as your setup guy to pitch you out of a jam. But if you can't put up more than 3.5 runs a game, are you really a World Series contender?
Yeah. So, but still, you got to be feeling good when you're in San Francisco right now.
Way better than the Rockies feel.
Yeah, building up some confidence, and you're hanging right in there with the Dodgers, Padres, and Diamondbacks. Not too far. You're in that hunt out of the gate, and like we said, how sustainable is all of this going to be as the season goes on?
This is why a Pete Alonso mattered.
Yeah.
Like right now, you kind of mentioned it that the first base production isn't necessarily there. How long is the magic on a Jung Ho Lee before the league starts adjusting to him?
Yeah.
It's what's the guy that's going to hit when guys go through their downs along with their ups, and I don't
Yeah.
see that in San Francisco's lineup.
Yeah, and currently Bryce Eldridge is on the injured list down in Double A.
Eldridge,
So
we spent a lot of time, and this is my own personal opinion. Skyler, please share yours if you feel otherwise. But like, Eldridge is not a possibility for the majority of this year, the vast
exactly.
majority of this year, if not all of this year. If Bryce Eldridge appears for the Giants this year, it's because he bopped close to 40 home runs in the minors this year
Yeah.
and forced the issue. The Giants aren't looking for Bryce Eldridge to be their savior this year, the same way that the Rockies kind of, plan their years around their guys. So Eldridge would be a complementary piece rather than the fix. I firmly believe that the Giants are a smart enough organization for that.
Yeah, I'm thinking of like if he had performed, he's like that. When I'm talking about the sustainability thing, at some point during the summer of he's bopping off in the
Sure.
minors. We need and Lamont Wade Jr. or whoever else we have at first isn't doing it. Then they'll bring him in, but he's not expected to be that savior. Just a additional piece to help with hopefully a playoff push. But when they're out of it, if they kind of falter off in these
Yeah.
next couple months, then he's like, we can hold off. He can come up in September if he's ready.
I generally agree with that. My only thing is, if we were talking about, let's say, Jacob Berry, he was and I see you roll your eyes. Jacob Berry, I was super high on. Has not worked out, but he was the dude at LSU. He was the college hitter, supposed to be pro ready, got drafted 6 overall, and he went to Miami. He's not even part of San Francisco, so I should have established that from the get go. If you had drafted the college ready 2 years ago, now's the time. Bring him up, make him make an impact. Expect him to make an impact.
Yeah.
Great. Eldridge could surprise you. And yes, that would be a perfect storm. If the Giants tread water, Willie Adames starts getting hot, the pitching still is above average, and this is a borderline playoff team. And oh, by the way, you have Randy Johnson, but with a bat. Go. Like great. That's a perfect storm for him. Um, this isn't what you can prepare for with a 20-year-old. You're hoping that 2 years from now, you're now talking about Bryce Eldridge was the hitter you wish you had last year or the year before, kind of thing, because he's that keystone. They're still missing that cornerstone hitter, and that's the thing. And it's hard to put that. It's hard to put that on the shoulders of a 20-year-old. Simply put, and that's why I don't expect Eldridge to be any sort of answer this year.
No, totally makes sense. But anyway, the point of it, good start by the Giants.
Yeah, could have been better if you had Pete Alonso all year, I guess. I don't know.
But I just hope it's sustainable.
It is a very good start. It's a very good start. And honestly, Jung-Hoo Lee, he's an unconventional center fielder. He's not the power speed guy. Everybody was hoping that we got, Grady Sizemore. I don't know, where it's a 30-30 threat kind of thing. The power's not there. But holy crap, did San Francisco nail it? Where it's like, do you see those gaps? They're enormous. Go have fun. Both running balls down, catching them, and hitting them into him. And that's exactly what he's been. He's a difference maker. And we talked about Zach Veen kind of, having an impact with the Rockies, even though it's minimal because of the situation they put him in. This is exactly what the Giants saw with Jung-Hoo Lee when they signed him last year. And injuries, unfortunately, pushed that back. You're seeing it this year. And yeah, man, the Giants weren't wrong. This guy is a difference maker, and it's showing at least to start the year. Now, be healthy. That's the thing now.
Yeah, that's the main thing. And I was trying to look up leadoff man stats, but Jung-Hoo Lee is up there in the National League.
It passes the eye test at the very least. And we talk about small sample sizes, and obviously if we're talking about a dozen games into a season, you can't argue that it's not a small sample size. But eye test gets overlooked now in a very objective world, especially in baseball. Jung-Hoo Lee is passing the eye test big time. And that's big for the Giants because not a lot of guys pass the eye test. You trust that they're smart enough that a Lamont Wade Jr. or a Mike Yastrzemski is put in the right position to succeed, even though, But Jung-Hoo Lee, they're counting on him to be an everyday guy and not just a situational guy. And he's showing it. And so it's impactful and it's making the Giants a good team. This team is overachievers for a reason. And it's because they're right on guys like Jung-Hoo Lee. Again, but now just stay healthy.
Yeah. Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, it's nice, dude. It's nice. I want the Giants to achieve more. Do I think that a Jung-Hoo Lee puts them over the Dodgers? Hell no. Do I think it puts them over the Padres? Probably not. But it's a good complementary piece. I don't think Willie Adames is still that guy if they just get one more guy. And that's what makes Bryce Eldridge appealing, is Bryce Eldridge could be that guy. But it's a good complementary cast waiting for somebody to break out. That's the way I feel about the Giants.
Yeah. That's a perfect way to put it, where you're just waiting for the star of the show to pop out and help lead the troop.
I don't think it's Lee, but for now, they're rallying around him. That's how I feel about the Giants.
You hope it's Adames or maybe it's Chapman, but they're still waiting for the star of the show to appear.
Arson Judge, baby.
Yeah. No,
but it's a good start, and they are a borderline playoff team for that reason. Again, overachiever might sound harsh, but that's kind of what they are for for the right reasons,
Yeah. Yeah, it's the island of misfit toys, like the no names that are somehow getting the job done. And
Yeah,
then you
a
wonder
Justin
if
Burnes can be asked, but that means we have three pitchers you haven't heard of that are actually way better than him right now.
yeah. Yeah.
That's kind of how the Giants operate. Very under the radar, but well,
Yeah.
you're whelmed with the Giants.
Mhm.
Overwhelmed, not underwhelmed. I'm just very whelmed with San Francisco right now.
But yeah, so the Giants off to a good start. We're running out of time here, Kenneth. So I feel like let's focus on the Arizona Diamondbacks. We can talk about Padres, Dodgers another time. Everybody knows they're just doing their
Dodgers are
thing.
good. If you didn't know, the Dodgers are very good.
What?
Yeah.
But they got all their things. But let's focus on the Diamondbacks here as we wrap up this episode. We can talk 10 minutes here about the Diamondbacks. But off to a 7-6 start on the season. They did win over the Orioles, I believe 9-0 here on this Wednesday. It's kind of a tale of two things where we looked at that pitching staff during the offseason. We're like, okay, this is a pretty good pitching starting rotation. Rather, they get the Corbin Burnes, got Merrill Kelly, Zach Gallen. You're hoping
The
Eduardo
Corbin
Rodriguez can do his thing, and then Brandon Pfaadt ends up rounding things out. The rotation, not off to a great start to begin the season. Corbin Burnes has an ERA over 5. All this stuff. There's been some gems in there, but not off to maybe the start the Diamondbacks hoped to begin the year.
Yeah, I'm not worried about Corbin Burnes right now. I'll put it that way. I think that he will be fine. It'll middle out, and I don't feel, and I could be wrong about this, but I don't feel like this is the first time that Corbin Burnes has gotten off to a slow start.
Mm-hmm.
This is, very, totally a personal story, but I think it's applicable without a whole lot of context at the moment. Marcus Semien right now on my fantasy team is going through exactly that. I feel like Marcus Semien is butts for the first month of the season, then he takes off. Burnes has a bit of a reputation with that in my mind, but there's nothing stuff-wise. You're not seeing a Roy Halladay, oh crap, we lost 8 miles an hour on the fastball.
Yeah.
How's this going to go? I think he'll be fine. I think with the Diamondbacks right now, you still have a Corbin Carroll performing. You're not optimal. You're not performing the way you expect to, but what did Zach Gallen have? Like a 13K outing or something like that in his first start? And Corbin Burnes obviously has more than enough of a track record to trust. You know that your main offensive piece is hitting. Ketel Marte was very good, and you secured him before the injury went down. So it's unfortunate, but you felt good about your two best hitters along with your second best pitcher. And you figure your best pitcher is going to come around. It's not that bad, for Arizona being 1 game below. Now, if Arizona was Atlanta right now, this is where I would be questioning, is Torey Lovello the guy for the job? Because if it started 0-9, then yeah, man, this is the first half has been a problem for you guys. Starting the first week of the season, first 2 weeks of the season, 7-7, that's fine. You're okay. You'll be fine. Is how I feel about Arizona right now.
Yeah, and it helps, like you mentioned, the offense is popping off in various forms of it. Corbin Carroll, I think he kind of adjusted some things during the offseason. He's off to a hot start, 320 average. He's got a 1.164 OPS, 5 homers. Of his 16 hits, he's got 4 doubles, a triple, 8 ribbies, 12 strikeouts, 6 walks. He's getting it done. Eugenio Suarez is hitting dingers. He's got 5 home runs. Yeah, he's slugging .533. That's what Suarez is supposed to do.
Yes, please, and thank you.
Yeah. Geraldo Perdomo, he's off to a good start. 6 walks for him, Kenneth, against 2 strikeouts.
Yes, please, and thank you.
Awesome.
Get on base and then let Suarez hit a bopper to drive you in. That's not a complicated plan.
Josh Naylor, he's hitting .340, just 1 home run, so the power hasn't popped in yet, but he's got 5 doubles in his 16 hits.
Yeah.
He's slugging .511. Great.
Good start with the new team.
Josh Naylor leads the team in stolen bases.
Saw
He's
that
got
coming.
3.
Yeah, Josh Naylor, the potential 50 stolen base threat. Him and his
Yep.
beer keg chugging down,
Yeah.
still in third.
Gabby Moreno's doing his thing. Here's the surprising one that we kind of talked about of like a kind of a make or break year or like a show me year for Pavin Smith.
Mm-hmm.
No, through his first 30 at bats, he's hitting 400. He's got a 1.153 OPS, 1 home run, 5 doubles, 4 ribbies, 5 walks, 12 strikeouts. For your DH hitting probably in that lower part of the lineup, Pavin Smith getting it done.
You know who Arizona should have looked at and said, Pavin Smith be that? Lamont Wade Jr.
Mm-hmm.
Just to take advantage of platoon opportunities. I don't want you to ever see a left-handed pitch again. I want you to just beat up any right-hander that throws something in down by your right kneecap. And that's pretty much what he is. And so, like, again, this is just a smart organization using the resources that they have available and implementing talent where they can. Now, I know Corbin Burnes isn't showing up right now and, stopping them from having a tail slide to start the season necessarily, but the time is going to come where they need Corbin Burnes to get them a win.
Yeah.
And he's going to do it. And like they're finding enough guys to get them wins right now.
Yeah.
And that's going to keep them afloat till they get to the second half. And that's all I think anybody asked of Arizona this year.
Yeah. That's what you need where, hey, if your pitching's a little bit behind to start the season, that's okay. The offense is going to carry you. We just need
or vice versa.
Yeah, and vice versa. Like, we just need you to get through, at least we'll try to get through
June.
5 innings. Yeah, get us to June in your starts, 5 innings, 5 strong innings. This offense will carry you. They're okay right now. They'll be fine.
And that's where a guy like Jordan Montgomery maybe would have mattered right now.
Yeah.
If you had, I don't know, Zach Allen and Merrill Kelly both not miraculously, but mysteriously went down for a couple of, starts, blisters, what have you. And then all of a sudden Jordan Montgomery comes in, picks up the slack and throws, 3 straight wins with a 1.6 ERA. Holy crap, did we need that at the time? That's kind of what Arizona's figuring out right now with some of their guys. And one of the interesting parts, we spent a lot of time talking about prospects over the course of the offseason. Jordan Lawler right now is literally playing all 4 infield positions in AAA arena. Like, they're doing exactly what you hoped they would do. As soon as a Suarez, Perdomo, Marte just went on the injured list, we'll talk about that, or whoever else on the infield isn't performing, you better, because look at this guy. He's ready to take your at bats, and that's what Arizona's doing. That's a well-run organization, and I feel like 7-6 is an accomplishment a bit for them right now. Because if they can just hold this until June, I know what kind of second half team they've been over the past 2 years, and I feel way better about them at that point.
Yeah, and they're getting carried pitching-wise. Brandon Pfaadt is doing pretty good in his 3 starts, but then the bullpen, generally, not terrible, like pretty solid across the board. You got some good guys in the back end of it.
Martinez has looked electric, and they found some good pieces like Beeks.
Jalen Beeks doing good in that as that lefty reliever. AJ Puck's doing his thing. Bryce Jarvis. So they've got guys. Shelby Miller is
very underrated closer. Very, very underrated late inning reliever, only because there's such a stigma on him, especially with Arizona being attached. Shelby Miller is legit. Like, it's surprising how long it's taken him to get to the bullpen, but when that conversion happened either last year or the year before, boy, that became lights out quickly. Like, I would not be surprised if we're talking this time next year about Shelby Miller being the elite closer free agent of the offseason. Like, that's kind of a thing in my mind, at least.
Yeah, when he made the full conversion, it looks like he made that full conversion back in like 2021, and then it really clicked in 23 with guess who? The Dodgers. the true year for him when he had a
Surprise, surprise.
1.71 in 36 appearances out of the bullpen. Then a good year with Detroit last year out of the bullpen. So
It's big
sneaky
stuff.
good move. That was
Detroit
pretty
wishes
late
they had
move,
them
too.
right now. Detroit really wishes they had him right now because their closer from last year is in AAA. So yeah, but I'm fine with Arizona. Arizona's fine. Arizona is fine, and that's an upgrade from where
Yeah.
they've been at this point in the past 2 years. And so, like, dude, Arizona's only going to continue to get more scary unless Ketel Marte is done for the year, unless Corbin Burnes never figures it out. You need dramatic bad luck swings right now with this organization because they've set themselves up so well. And so, heck yeah, right now with Arizona.
Yeah, and bring up Ketel Marte right now. This is the one where he's grade 1 hamstring injury. They say he'll be out for a series of weeks. So it's hard with the hammies because you just never know. They take forever to get back from.
Who the hell uses series of weeks for a timeline? First of all, this is worse than indefinite.
That's what Torey Lovello says.
This is worse than indefinite. So right now, Ketel Marte's injury is being described as Royce Lewis's existence. Like, yeah, he's fragile. Like, I don't know what better way to put it. I think Marte will be fine. I think overall they're playing the waiting game. I think it's weird timing and nobody's thinking too much into it because he just got the extension, which, by the way, I don't know if we want to dig into this too much. Arizona did so right by Ketel Marte and the organization that I think that that's going to go a very long way in the long-term health of this organization, this specific Ketel Marte extension, because they did not have to do it.
Yeah.
They were 2 years away from even having to think about it. But they restructured the contract and made it, hey, we know we need to depend on you, but we know we can't depend on you forever. So let's give you security in the time where we agree to depend on you in. And that's in the next 3 years, 4 years, something along those lines. Yeah. I love that contract. And I wish more of baseball worked that way because we love you. You love us. Let's keep this going. But no, it's not going to last forever. They nailed it. They absolutely nailed it. Now he immediately turned around and got hurt, but it may be the wrong answer for all the right reasons is at least the way I feel about this right now. And so I trust Marte and Burnes and Gallen and Carroll will be here from July and later and carry this team into a playoff push. And they're in position right now. That's all you can ask.
Yeah. Yeah. And it helps to have, Marte clearly a guy, hopefully when he can come back, then keeps hitting the ground running. And in the meantime, they can figure out, Tim Tawa, who they called up. Hopefully he can handle it down. Maybe Garrett Hampson gets more. Or, like you said, Jordan Lawler gets the call up.
What a card to have in your pocket,
Yeah.
Hey, by the way, I have one of the 5 best infield prospects in the game.
Yeah.
Let me just throw that in there.
Like, they don't have to panic. Like, oh, this guy went down. We don't have to make a panic move right now to bring somebody in to replace him. Like, no, we have enough guys. We can hold out until he's ready to come back. Like, that's what a lot of these other 4 teams in this division have is, at least for the most part, good enough.
LA, it's hard to make that argument with LA because they're their own monster.
Yeah.
I get where you're going with that. Yeah. Oh, LA's hurt. Dang. Well, why don't we just go ahead and let's bring up Alex Wood, a 2-time All-Star with 115 career wins. Poor us,
the Dodgers have the depth of the other 29 teams in baseball.
They have royalty. Yeah, the Dodgers are royalty, but I agree with where you're going with that for the rest of everybody else. Dude, even though the Diamondbacks aren't off to the start they want to be, I'm impressed with them. And that's hard to say for a lot of teams. Like, the only other team that I can maybe say this about, and I might immediately wear this, is Cincinnati. Like, Tito is bringing some stability in there. And that's kind of the way I feel right now about Arizona.
Yeah. And it helps because the guys who should be performing
The Reds are
offensively,
5-8, so meh.
the guys who are performing offensively that you would expect, who you need to be doing it, like Corbin Carroll, who struggled immensely last year out of the gate. He's doing his thing, looking like a guy who could contend for an MVP this year. That's what you need for this Diamondbacks team. So, yeah, you're 7-6, but you got a winning record. No, in the first couple weeks, you're still waiting for the rotation to click as a unit. No need to worry about them. They're still in the thick of things in this division. So, anybody that maybe is worried or pessimistic about the Diamondbacks, like, give them time. Like, they'll
What
be fine.
about what about Arizona makes you feel any worse than what's going on in Atlanta?
Yeah.
Atlanta right now is enough of a fire to where you're like, whew, if I throw water on this, it might get worse.
Yeah.
You're questioning things right now with Atlanta. Arizona, what do you have to feel bad about? That you're not off to the possibly unrealistic start of the Giants? Or that you're not catching lightning in the bottle right now like San Diego is, which, we can maybe, touch on San Diego at the end, but Arizona is about where they should be, give or
Mm-hmm.
take a win or two. And that's
Yeah.
about, where it is. And that's great for the first 2 weeks of the season. The Rockies are about where they should be, and that's a problem.
Yeah.
And so it's just two very different stories right now.
Yeah. And it's what interesting. You got those 4 teams, those 4 pony race. We expect the Dodgers may be at the top and the Padres to be nipping at their heels, but then, we have these surprise dark horses where, hey, maybe the Giants keep the voodoo magic going. They get hot as the season goes on. Diamondbacks then pick it all up. You could legitimately see any of combination of these 4 teams get 3 of them into the postseason.
Tell me if you feel otherwise. The Dodgers are a sure thing. If we're talking at least playoffs, right? At the very least playoffs, the Dodgers are a sure thing, which is hard to say in baseball. I don't want to undercut that. Are the Diamondbacks or the Padres a surprise right now? I don't think so. I think, well, first of all, the Diamondbacks being 500 is not a surprise, but the Diamondbacks being one of the 4 above 500 teams right now is no surprise. The Giants are, but you're now really questioning 3 of these teams because the Dodgers are going to be there. Can the Padres continue to just be a glass half full organization for 1 year? And that's what they are right now. Can the Diamondbacks stop themselves from underachieving? And can the Giants continue to overachieve? There is a world where all 4 happen. There really is. But I think the smart money says for sure 2, probably 3. That's kind of how I'm feeling right now. And I think it comes down to, let's say it's the Padres' year of destiny. It's Tatis wins the MVP, whatever. The Padres have the best possible outcome. I trust the Diamondbacks to stop themselves from underperforming more than I trust the Giants to continue to overperform. That's my gut right now.
No, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, it's just fun to where you can look at a division and you can look across baseball where it's just nice to. I like when it feels like, hey, a majority of these teams, 4, 5 teams in this division, could legitimately make the playoffs. That just makes the sport better. It's when it'll get blown out, and then you add in a team like the Rockies, and you're like, or the entirety of the American League Central most years, or even the National League Central most years.
Centrals.
Yeah, the Centrals.
Mm-hmm. Well, the Rockies are the doormat this year. You're touching on something, but last year, it's whoever beat the crap out of the White Sox the most. And that's a big reason why the Tigers ended up in the playoffs last year, is they absolutely pummeled the White Sox all last year. And that made a huge difference in their record. And so, we're speaking to a Colorado audience right now. Boy, the Rockies have a chance to play spoiler only because these teams have to play them. And like whoever loses the most games against the Rockies this year is going to be affected. And divisions just play out that way sometimes. Now, for a Colorado fan base, you have a lot more reasons and gripes as to why that's the case in the first place. But man, these games against the Rockies really matter this year because these teams are showing that they're good teams from the outset.
Yeah.
If you're losing games you should win, especially in division, it's going to add up. Ask Arizona about that.
Yeah. And the Padres will have their first crack at the Rockies this coming weekend, a team they have struggled against over the last couple of years. Actually, kind of historically, they've struggled against the Rockies at times. Not so much the other three teams. They are usually pretty handy against the Rockies.
There's always one team each year. I mean, like overall, there are some historic owning the Rockies, but every year there's one team where it's just like for 3 years we couldn't beat the Dodgers when they had Matt Kemp and couldn't win more than 75 games a year, but we sucked every year against them. So like, yeah, a lot of teams are going to have success against the Rockies. It depends. I don't know the best way to say this. The product that the Rockies put out on the field against these teams is going to make me feel very differently about the outcome of this. Because how am I trying to say this? This Padre series right now is going to get Zach Veen in there. There's a very good chance, and Zach Veen and Chase Dollander, I think, is going to be in line to start, though I could be wrong about that. How do you feel about the Rockies heading into this series if they stick with the struggling Jordan Beck and Nick Martini and whatever incarnation of Chichi Gonzalez they have this year instead of Chase Dollander trying to make starts, So at least there's some foot forward, and you expect that, you hope that if they put this same lineup out there in June, July, it's a better team with a more experienced Veen, with a more experienced Dollander, whatever it is. So there's hope that the Rockies can play spoilers, but there's a very good chance that Nick Martini is still getting these at-bats come August. Yeah. And then at that point, it's like, well, we beat the Rockies 17 times. You only beat them 14 times, and that's what you lost to us. And so that's the way it could play out this year. And that's just the way divisions work when you have one bottom feeder and everybody else beating up on him. It's really how this division is shaping up this year.
Yeah. But hey, it's going to be a fun year in the National League West for 4 of these teams. Fun to watch those races for these 4 teams. And then, the Rockies exist.
Yeah, I mean, we touched a lot on the Rockies, and there's enough to watch on, but they're not going to be good. And I think they realized it immediately with the Veen and Dollander call-ups.
Yeah. But, hey, lots to watch on. It is one of the better divisions in baseball, at least out of the gate. We'll see how things progress over the season, but it's too early to say, hey, they're the best most competitive division in baseball. You got to let the race run out there, baby.
I am not going to be surprised. I don't think anybody should feel surprised that the National League West is succeeding to start this year. Yeah. And let us know in the comments. Let us know if you feel differently. But right now, I think everybody in baseball right now is looking at this division and saying, yeah, the Giants are actually outperforming what I expect them to a little bit. But yeah, that's about right. Because you watch the Cubs have their flaws. You watch, obviously, the Cardinals are still, you watch the whole National League Central. It's not overly impressive. You watch the East, the Mets will always be LOL Mets. There's something to it. The West is stable. The West is stable and strong and good, and there's a whole lot of 85 to 95 win teams in there right now. Yeah. And right now they're looking like they want to kind of be, hopefully pushing that 90 win pace over the course of the year.
Yeah, and as we get wrapped up here, Norm dropped in a comment here at the end saying it's a marathon. I don't believe in the Giants. Let's wait until 70 games. But I do believe in Arizona as a legit challenger to Los Angeles. San Diego may be, but it depends if they trade King or Cease or Arise. Yeah, like you said, everybody's off to a hot start out of the gate, but it's a small sample size. And with baseball and like with a lot of the other sports, we got a ton more. We got 5 months of games to go.
162 games. Yeah. That's a lot. So, Norm, you're absolutely correct. There's a lot. But, You know what? I think this could be the start of a very clear picture over the course
Yeah.
of the year, that there are 4 legitimate playoff contending teams in this division. It's not far-fetched to feel that way. And this first 2 weeks has kind of shown that.
Yeah. No, the first little bit of the season, first couple weeks, it's to just kind of maybe start building some storylines and building up some hopes or dashing some some hopes and all those things. That it starts giving you things to look at and hope for over the course of a season. You're like, hey, like we were saying, well, yeah, like San Francisco, they're looking good. Hopefully, it can keep up. But if it doesn't, we're like, well, it's kind of what we expected. Like that start was surprising. It's not surprising they tapered off all
Yeah,
those things. And
you need way better than a 7 ERA out of Justin Verlander to make that hold
yeah,
up. And so it's fair to question some teams, and it's not going to be this way throughout the entire season for everybody. I think Arizona's only going to continue to get better as somebody like a Marte returns to form. Maybe a Corbin Burnes starts, getting acclimated to his new environment. As I figure, San Francisco will slide a little bit. There's plenty of time to go. But I think there are some true colors that it's not going out on too far of a limb to start pointing at right away. And I think a Jung Ho Lee being a catalyst for San Francisco is a very good point to point out right now for those type of teams. And so there's a lot of good things in the West outside of Colorado to point to.
yeah, it's
And
pointing out
even
here.
with Colorado, there's Veen and Dolliner. Like there
Yeah.
is some hope for the future, at least a little bit right now. So there are positives around the division right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you said, we touched on it before. Who can sustain the depth and work their way through when injuries do hit? It's a marathon. Who's going to outlast everybody else during that race? Be a lot of fun to watch in the National League West. Every team but the Rockies has double-digit positive run differential. Aside from the Rockies, are at negative 18. Only other division that has at least 4 teams with a positive run differential is the American League East, who is often considered pretty competitive.
They're okay.
Only the Orioles have a negative, and they're at negative 6. Everybody only the New York Yankees have that plus 23, but that's also really helped by
Torpedo
torpedoes that they were dropping on the Brewers.
The
which
Torpedo 23. They traded Nestor Cortez just to get their run differential positive to start the year.
Went all according to plan. He's still loyal.
All right. But no, this is a good division. It's a very, very good division. And if you're talking as a Colorado fan, you just hope they can compete. But, man, Colorado looks bad. Colorado looks so bad in comparison to the rest of the division right now. And it's because the division has set a higher bar. And this is what we all worried about heading into this year.
Yeah.
And the rest of the team is fulfilling their end of the bargain. The rest of the teams, I should say, in this division.
Yeah. No, the Dodgers have set a tempo. They've set the rules of the game in the division. 3 of the other teams are trying to play up to those rules that have been set. And one, arguably, is just off in their own little corner playing in the sandbox.
Yeah, there's 3 that are playing the non-deferred game, and there's 1 team playing the deferred game. That's the Rockies.
And on that note, that'll bring the end of this episode of Best of the West. Appreciate folks tuning in over wherever it may be, YouTube, Twitch, over on X, or wherever you may find this later on YouTube or your favorite podcasting platform later this week. Be sure to follow Blake Street Banner on social media or your favorite audio platform. And, of course, like and subscribe here on YouTube. Kenneth, where can the folks find you?
You'll find me at Purple Row and on Twitter at KDub1988.
And find me over on Purple Row, writing Wednesday Rock Piles, and also doing game coverages. And then on Twitter at Skyler Timmins, or over on Blue Sky at stimmins13.bsky.social, and writing for fansfirstsportsnetwork.com. But until next time, this has been Best of the West. And remember, folks, the best is yet to come.